Welcome to Dance Uncorked podcast. I am your host, Lindsay Jean. Thank you so much for being here. And I have a very special guest joining me today on this episode. And it is a good friend and an amazing dancer, educator, artist, you name it. She's got lots of titles, I think, in my book. And I'm so happy that she decided to join me today. And this is Allison Eversoll, everybody. And thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really excited. And I mean, what better way to end a night with wine and talking with friends? So,
yes, I mean, it is a pretty sweet gig. Pretty sweet. But so Allison and I met, we went to grad school together for 1 year. 1 year of grad school. It was my final year as a grad student back in 2017. And it was Allison's first year of grad school. We call it the first year of grad school with quotes. I'm doing quotes for listeners that are just listening. Because it was her, I call it her pre-grad school year.
It was the warm-up.
It was the warm-up. She attended the University of Oregon for 1 year before she transferred over to Irvine to finish her grad degree. So she kind of got a little taste of the West Coast during her grad experience, which is super cool. But I was lucky enough to have her in my life at least for a year and get to dance with her. And I mean, we had such a good time together. And we both tap and we just do a lot of the same type of stuff, which is really, really nice. And that was really refreshing to have you around that final year that I was kind of in this modern program. I was like, oh, I found my person. Like, you get it. So thanks for being here. And you picked out the wine today.
I did.
So before we start talking about you and what we're going to talk about dance wise, let's talk about this wine that you picked out. So yes, look at this bottle. It is fierce. I love this bottle. Right off the bat, I know it's not going to be a regular red wine because it is in more, I don't know if viewers at home, you can see if you're watching it through YouTube, it's shaped more like a whiskey bottle, or some sort of like hard liquor bottle. And for my listeners, that it's this like really dark black color and it's got this interesting shape to it. So right off the bat, I know that it's going to be different. And this is Cooper and Thief. And Allison, is this something that you drink regularly? Like, is this a regular go-to for you?
Sometimes I find it really easy in the store and sometimes I don't. So it depends on the day. If I have the patience to find it, then yes. But if not, it's kind of like a fun occasion drink.
Yes. It's kind of hard to find. I had to go to 2 stores to find it. I don't think in one store I couldn't find it, and whether that was because I couldn't find it or they just didn't carry it, I don't know. So I get what you're saying, where you're like, if I have the patience to like look for this, I'm gonna go get it. But I found this at my local grocery store. For me, it was about $25. Is that kind of how much
I want to
for you?
say I think it was 23, but that was like Ralph's discount. So
okay, cool.
Yeah.
So Allison is joining us from California. She's living in California right now. And I'm obviously in Oregon. So that's the fun part about doing this podcast is the guests that I have on here. I say, you go pick out the wine and let's see if I can find it. And that's kind of the game that we play. And it's super fun. And when we do that, usually, for example, just like today, Allison, I think you have this 2017 vintage.
Yep.
And I have the 18 because that's all they had in the store. So the different vintages are distributed differently in stores all over the country. So this is Cooper and Thief, and we are drinking the red wine blend. And Cooper and Thief is a really fun company. If you haven't checked them out, their website is really cool and user-friendly and really simple, actually. They're very straight to the point. And you can kind of tell that through the website itself and then also through just looking at your wine bottle. Like if you look on the front of this bottle, it tells you everything you need to know right on the front. So it goes over your tasting notes. It says who is the master blender. The master blender signed it. Where it's made, how much is in this bottle, and then the vintage. Like it's got, I mean, it's got a lot of information, and then you just keep going around the label and it's got more information. So it's straight to the point, like they do that on purpose. Their theme on their website is it's born from mischief. So it's got this like rebel type feel to it. And they are interested in really with experimenting. They want to change tradition. They are non-conformative based on like the things that you see on their website and that you read. They're a little bit cheeky. That's what I say. And I love that. Like, I love a good cheeky company that's cheeky about wine, because wine can have this real, you know, assumption that it's elite or high class, similar to dance. Like certain dance forms have this like assumption, right? And wine can tend to have that like pinkies up, you know, proper, this is for fancy people type thing. But this company, Cooper and Thief, they just tear that down. And they're super cheeky about how they do it. And they're really straightforward. Like I said, from the website to the label, like you can just tell that is their voice right from the get-go. The seller master is Chris Leamy. And that is who made, from what I can tell from the signature on the bottle, is who made the wine. So thanks for your signature, Chris. Love it. Love having that. And this particular blend was aged 3 months in bourbon whiskey barrels. So they were in smoky bourbon casks. And that's the main thing that they do, is they take wine and put them in bourbon barrels, and it produces different flavor profiles. They carry 4 different wines. They have this red blend, they've got the Pinot Noir, and they've got Sauv Blanc, and they've got Cab Sauv. And all 4 of those actually are all blends. None of them are pure. So it's not just the Cab Sauv grape in that, they are all, even the Sauv, like they are all blends, which is really fun. So the highest percentage of whatever grape is blended into that is what they're calling it. And I love that. I think that's a really unique way to do it. So in this red wine blend alone, we have got, are you ready for this? We have got, oh my God, it's a long list. We've got Merlot, Syrah, Zinfandel, Petit Syrah, Cab Sauv, and other red blenders. And those are all different percentages. So you have to go look that up on the website, but that is what's in just this one wine that we're tasting today. It is 16 to 17% alcohol by volume, ladies and gentlemen. So this is like I said, straightforward, bold, mischievous, cheeky, straight to the point. I love it. And you know, it's a beautiful label, lots of education to learn from this. I really like this. And it's, like I said, it's easy to find in the grocery stores. And they also distribute to restaurants and bars too. So depending on where you are, they might carry the Cooper and Thief red wine blend in their restaurant or bar. For example, I typed in like to look for Cooper and Thief within 100 miles from my location, and 41 places popped up. So
nice.
they are findable, which is nice. They like to distribute, because not all wineries do, but they do. This is a very well distributed wine. So what do your notes say on the 17? Like, what are you supposed to taste?
It says dark and jammy with toasty vanilla notes, which yes.
Yes, I taste the same, I mean, maybe I opened this earlier. Let's just be honest. Like, maybe I did. Sorry. I couldn't help myself. But I'm supposed to taste dark and jammy with toasty vanilla notes as well. So I think we're both kind of tasting the same thing. You know, the vintages, I don't know. I don't know if we were together, I would love to do a side-by-side tasting, because I bet the vintages would just be a little bit different. Not too much, but you know, just that hint of it just depends on the year. And this is in California, so this is different wine than I'm used to drinking here in Oregon. We're very Pinot Noir and like lighter. stuff just because we have that climate. So this is going to be bold, and it's going to be big, and it's going to be in your face. And that added extra whiskey barrel flavor is going to do something to it. So thank you for being here. Cheers. And
cheers.
Yay, cheers. I like your wine glass. It's pretty. Okay.
Thanks. Yeah, this thing packs a punch for sure. Ooh.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I like right away, whiskey is there. I can definitely taste that it's been in a barrel with whiskey in it. It's not overpowering, but it's definitely there. It's almost like a port. Like I get port vibes.
Oh, yes.
But
yeah, you don't need more than one glass of this probably. I mean, you can, but probably
right.
not.
You have to have an intense day to have like more than one glass, just because it's not thick. I feel like it tricks you. It tricks you. When you smell it, and when it first hits your tongue, you think it's going to taste like a port, and then the whiskey comes in and it's like, nope, pow, we are not a port. And then I finish with that vanilla. Like I get the sweet stuff on the very, very end. Like after I've swallowed it, and probably like 30 seconds after that, I get the vanilla, and I'm like, oh, well, hello. Like it's such a cool wine.
Yeah, it's my dad actually introduced me to this wine. So yeah, it's near and dear to my heart. So
oh man, I feel like this is great with this is a great end of the day situation. This is a great, I like to drink bourbon while I'm eating cookies.
Oh, yes.
Like whiskey and cookies is one of my favorite things to drink and eat at the same time. So I think one night, if I wanted to go a little bit sweeter, I could replace it with this easily. And it's not necessarily like that. Like I said, it has port-ish like qualities, but it's not a dessert. I don't know. I wouldn't call it a dessert wine because there's too much like whiskey punch in there that it's not just sweet. Like there's definitely something else going on. Oh man. Good choice, Alice.
Yay.
This is good. And I think that, this is a very appropriate wine for our topic today. So
yes.
Here's the deal. Allison called me about 2 weeks ago because she was like, Lindsay, I need to talk to you. Like, I know I needed to call you and talk to you about this. And we talked, and I think 2 weeks went by roughly. And I think I texted you last week, and I was like, we need to take our entire conversation and make that a podcast, because it was just a really good conversation, and I loved the stuff we said in that moment. But I think we've been saying that stuff for years now. And it finally kind of came to fruition because of an opportunity, right? So I wanted to bring you on and talk about that. And to start us off, I'm just wondering if you can give our listeners a little bit more about you, a brief overview of your dance history and your history with teaching, and just how you are as an artist, like where you came from and where you are today.
Yeah, I always describe myself as the Midwest gal, wherever I go, because that's just my roots of growing up. I was a competition kid for 9 years, that since I was 3. It didn't happen right when I was 3, but I've been dancing for my whole life.
Yeah.
So competition kid, and I would say my entire dance history is alongside of the like commercial industry with dance. I think that's kind of where I sit in the pocket of. And so competition kid. And then I went to undergrad at the University of Central Oklahoma. And I sought out that school because it didn't just have ballet and modern, it also had jazz. And there was tap electives. So there was versatility within this program, which is what drew me there. And then I graduated a semester early. How I still figured that out, I don't know, but I got done early, and then I went on to cruise ships. So I did cruise ships for 2 years. And then from there, I went to Cedar Point and I worked in the theme park. And I always knew California and LA was going to be my end goal. It was just a matter of like, okay, when is the time? And it happened after Cedar Point in 2014. I moved out to California, which I've been here now for 7 years, besides my random little detour to Oregon and back.
Your vacation,
My vacation.
your little
Yep.
vacation. Yeah.
Yep. Hop, skip, and a jump, and then leaped my way back to California.
Yep.
So I've been here since 2014. And I started, I mean, growing up, performing was what I wanted to do. That is really, truly all that I knew at the time. I was like, nope, performing. If I'm not performing, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I did that for 2 years, and I don't know, it always felt like something was missing in the industry out here. I knew it was going to be a very hard industry to, you know, kind of make it in. And that's not what discouraged me. It was just, there was like a missing puzzle piece. So I had reached out actually to a friend from cruise ship days and just being like, hey, like I want to choreograph more. And she was like, oh, I had no idea that she had her own theater company in Southern California. She's like, I actually need a choreographer for a chorus line. And I was like, okay. And this just goes to show how much I was kind of overperforming. I was driving 2 hours in traffic.
Oof.
And I was happy about that, which is insane.
Yeah. That's
I was
crazy.
Right. 2 hours.
I'm gonna legitimize that. Yeah. That's nuts.
Yeah. To go, like, I mean, yeah, it was ridiculous, but I loved it. And that's kind of what sparked, I think, my path for my MFA. Me realizing that teaching was truly what I love to do, because I'll never forget the end of that show. It was just so rewarding to see those students from point A to the end and the journey that they went on. To me, that meant so much more than me doing a gig for a day. But that's just me personally. And so I started choreographing for musical theater companies out in SoCal. And then I was like, all right, step further. Because I'm one of those people, I have a giant toolbox and I just try to fill it to the brim as much as possible. I like to learn. And so that's where my MFA journey happened. And I was like, okay, here we go. Like Lynn said, I went to Oregon and then I transferred to UCI, where I finished that out in 2018. That already feels forever ago, which is insane.
It goes by so fast. And
it does.
But in the moment when you're in it, you're like, I'm never going to get out of this. Like I'm going to get out of this, like crawling my way out, basically, because that's how it feels. But yeah, no, I can't even believe how much time has passed between even when you and I got to be together in my last year. I'm like, wait, right? God, that was like 5 years ago almost. Jeez.
Yeah, it's insane. And so, yeah, 2018, and through UCI, I made connections within the theater department. Mm-hmm. So growing up, I've always been in the dance department, but I always kept being pulled to the theater department because I don't know, made me so happy. So I was able to choreograph while in grad school. And then when I finished, and then my main hub where I'm at now is at Fullerton College, which is a community college here. In Orange County. And that's my main hub because I've been there for the past 2 years. But then I was an adjunct at UCI. Mm-hmm. I'm at other locations in Southern California. So I'm teaching part-time, mm-hmm. Which is exciting to get to work with so many students across the musical theater department in Southern California. So
nice. And you're still driving all over the place.
Yeah, but those 2 hours, I could drive for 7 hours now and it wouldn't faze me. Like I will say, it has prepped me for time. Yes. But I get to listen to wonderful podcasts such as yours on my drive.
Well, I was saying, like, I don't really do that kind of commuting. I did when I lived in Orlando because that's a bigger city. Like it takes farther to get from one place to the other. I just don't have that kind of commute here, and I kind of miss it. Like I do, because that was like the time for just you where you could wind down and like prep yourself mentally from point A to point B and just kind of like get your brain right when you're driving, unless there's like major traffic and like an accident, and then you're high stress. You're all the way up. But otherwise I totally get it. And I think, your students love you. I can tell just, from all the social media stuff that I follow with you, and you're a wonderful poster. I love following Allison on social media because you always do these really great stories where you talk about things. And I'm just like, I feel like I'm talking to you. I just love it. So I just watch it and it's fabulous. Everyone should follow Allison on her Instagram because
Oh my gosh.
it just makes your whole day. And you get to see the really cool things that she's doing with her students. So what I love that about you is that you've taken dance and you've kind of, you don't stay inside the box with it, like you like to do musical theater and you're okay with that. And that's a huge part of dance history, so especially in this country, so it's important. And dance is still so prevalent in theater. I don't know, I think that's a different podcast, like its legitimacy among dance and overall, as far as like being a musical theater dancer, or whatever you want to label it as, right?
Yeah.
Same as like the commercial quote unquote dancing, like what the hell does that even really mean? Like I don't know. But it's kind of the same thing, so I think that's a really admirable thing that you do. And I've loved that you've really run with that, like you don't, like you're just like, no, that's what I want to do and that's what I like to do. So then post, when you're in your final year of grad school, right, you are scrambling to find employment. Not only are you trying to finish your thesis, which is over 100 pages, like it's not just and then there's the performative part, right? Like, so you have to write all this crap and then you have to do an article and then you have to like do a performance or something, right? Like there's some physical aspect of it. So you're doing all that and then you're like, oh my God, I won't have a job anymore. Like in 9 months, what am I going to do? So you're starting to find work and you start applying to literally anywhere. Because you're just like, well, maybe they'll take me. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. It's that post graduation. I think 21-year-olds experience this too after they finish their bachelor's degree. They're trying to figure out what they're going to do. So it's just like, okay, anything. It's literally like gambling. You might as well just go to a casino and play the slots. Like that is kind of what it feels like. So post grad. Oh, hi, Beans. That's Beans.
Yeah, we got my cat joining us, y'all.
Beans in the background.
He'll be more entertaining than myself, I promise you that. So.
He's really cute. So Allison, you applied for jobs in your last year of grad school, and I'm sure you applied for a couple, like most people, but not too many because that's a lengthy process. Also, like to apply for higher education dance teaching jobs is quite, like that in and of itself feels like writing a thesis. Like, I don't know about you, but I was like, why am I doing this so many times? It's so awful. And it was so stressful. So you applied for work and then recently you heard back from one of them, like a year or so later, I guess. Is that the time period that went by?
So actually kind of a little flip. So I've been at Fullerton since I graduated.
Yes.
This was the job I just applied to was within the last 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, same thing, right?
Yeah.
Like you're just trying to look for work, because with part-time work, and this is what I kind of like came to, like part-time work is really tough. It's so wonderful because you have a lot of freedom and you're like different places, like you were saying, and you can like meet and network with so many people. But it's like a piecemeal also. Like you're trying to piece together some sort of like full-time salary and position. And that can be really stressful. So, in between all that stuff, I understand looking for work and, new chapters start and new chapters end. So you're moving on to new things. So you apply for this job and then 6 months later, you hear back from this particular, like is it a full university?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's like a full university. It's on the East Coast. Like it's 6 months later, bling, bling, bling. Hey, we're interested. And it's like, whoa, okay. So that's also a thing too with higher education, is that you may not hear back for like 6 months to a year. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. Maybe I'm doing something else by now. But that was kind of the situation. So when you called me for advice about that recent, like they were kind of getting you on the steps to offer you something. They were giving you those opportunities to maybe interview, come out and like bring you and like invest in you. So it's highly likely that they're going to offer you
Yeah.
something. So when you call me for advice about that, what were you conflicted about?
So yeah, jumping back to like when I applied to this, I'm just wanting something more full time. I was applying to places. At the time of applying, it was like, yes, this sounds wonderful. But then 6 months happened. And I mean, so there's a lot that changes in 6 months. Like I was in a completely different headspace. I had made up an already different plan. And I feel like dancing in the commercial industry has prepped me for these moments because I'm so used to just going and just letting it go and then moving on to the next thing, which is kind of what I did. I applied, it was in the world, and I was like, I'm not going to know for a while, but I can't let my life just stop. And so I completely have now made a plan that I'm actually moving back home to Colorado. That's like 96% was what at this time was what was going to be happening. And I was like, no, this where my heart is home. So we got to go back home. So I get the email. I get one email first of just saying like, we'd love to have you for an interview. And the fact that my response already with that was like, oh no, like it wasn't like, it was a really weird out of body experience. Cause I was like, why am I not as excited about this as I thought?
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, okay. So, yeah, so I was already just like, okay. So I quickly, like, I also did the most non-Allison thing. Like there's something that I will prep to ends time for something. This interview, I did not prep, which is like mind boggling to me. Apparently what I said in the interview was great because then they sent me another email, which is when I had called you and I was like, I don't want this job. I was like, I don't want this job. On paper, this looks amazing. It's a full-time job. I've been wanting a full-time job for so long. I mean, as much as I love being on the go, I'm starting to just kind of not want to be on the go. I think the pandemic for me has really made me appreciate the downtime and the just focusing on one thing sometimes instead of 10 million and juggling swords with fire. Like that's normally how my life goes.
Yeah, totally.
So I called you just being like, I think I'm going to say no to this job. And the words I did say at the time was like, am I stupid? I really said that. And, and you were like, no, you're not stupid. Like, no. So we like hashed it out and everything, but I was just conflicted because I'm so used to going after the career. And in this moment, I am choosing to go after happiness in my life, which as dancers, I feel like are in this industry I don't want to say it's frowned upon, but people, I don't know, it's like when an opportunity presents itself, you better take it.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, this is on a plate, it's being presented to me and I'm choosing not to take it. So what is going on in my head? Like, why this is dumb. I should be taking this. So I was just, yeah, I felt, there's a lot of emotions that were going on when I called you, but I was like, I need to call Lindsay because I know she's going to know what to say.
I didn't. Like, I was like, I think I asked you a bunch of questions first. Like, I was like, what do you want to do? Like, what do you want to do? And just like have you say it out loud what you want to do. I really appreciate the fact that you mentioned that you felt like you had to take it because it was an opportunity. Like we are bred, I think, especially in the dance world, the entertainment world, we are bred this way. But I also think that this goes way farther than that. Like, I think in any industry, it could be any competitive industry, really, right? I mean, in what industry is not competitive? You're trying to get jobs and you're trying to land a job up against other people. So this could really float between anything, whether it's computer engineering, Starbucks,
so
like
true.
anything. Like it could be anything. And if it's an opportunity we prioritize that over top of like happiness or like these more simplistic like feelings that we live with every day, which like blows my mind when I really think about it, because I have done exactly what you have done, and I have asked the same question of, you know, my mentors and stuff like that whenever I'm trying to decide about something and feeling guilty about prioritizing these other things. So I think that's really, why do we do that, Allison? Like, what is wrong with us that
Yeah.
we have gotten to a point where we've let our jobs and like a career validate how we will be happy? You know,
Right.
like everything, like if we do this, then all that other stuff will come along, versus like, if I want to be happy, I'm going to do this. And then maybe the career will come along. Like, who
Mm-hmm.
says that? Nobody. Like, very few people say that.
Yep.
And I'm just wondering what you think about that, because I've been thinking about that root. And I don't know if I can't fully blame, you know, anyone in particular, because I
Mm-hmm.
think it's more of a societal, it's like way bigger theoretical stuff. And maybe that's just because my crazy mind works. Like, I'm like, I love the big theoretical questions. And I love to talk about art, you know, ART. But I wonder about that. And I was wondering what you thought about that, because I've been thinking about that question and that concept ever
Mm-hmm.
since we talked. And I'm just like, what is wrong with us? Like, why do we feel bad about wanting to just be happy instead of
Mm-hmm.
choosing a career because it like presented itself all of a sudden? So
Yeah.
what do you think?
It's funny. I don't know if this timing was prior to our topic or when we talked or after, but I saw somebody posted something on one of the socials of just being like, when we meet new people, can we not have the first few lines be like, oh, so what do you do? It's like,
Yes.
and it's that I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like, it's true. It's like, what, okay, them telling us, what do we like, what do you do? It's like, how I'm not defined by my career. Like, I am who I am, and I will bring that into my career and my job. But it's like, but I am me. So it's like, why don't you just ask questions about like, oh, like what's, I don't know, what's your, that's, this is so silly, but what's your favorite color? But that's like pertaining to the person and not the career.
Right.
But it's, yeah, I don't know if it's in, if it's like subconsciously we're always, I mean, I feel like we're constant, I don't want to say judging, but I think we have it so ingrained in us that a job means a certain thing, a job means a certain pay, a job means a certain responsibility. And it's like, why does that define the person? Like,
Yeah.
why? And so I think I had a friend of mine, or a cousin, who's she's my cousin, but she's technically my dad's cousin, so she's older
Yeah.
than me. And she was like, she's like, if I was thinking how you were at your age, like that would have been like, I've come to terms with like going after happiness in life at a much later age. But like the fact that
Yeah.
you're doing that now is so cool to see, and not many people do. Um, which I guess I'm grateful that that is happening now. But it's
Yeah.
just, it's also sad that I feel like we have to think that we need to build our career up before that we can experience everything else. Work-life balance, it's key.
It's a real struggle. It is, and like
Yeah.
boundaries with work and stuff like that. I feel like if anything, this pandemic has really opened my eyes to that. Like, okay, boundaries, because I have none anymore. My work is
Mm-hmm.
here, right in my home. I physically can't separate the two now, but I've had to
Yeah.
learn how to do that even in my own home. Like, I'm like,
Uh-huh.
okay, actually there is a physical boundary here. I'm going to do work here. I'm never going to do work here, because that is a different space meant
Mm-hmm.
for only these things. So I feel like that's happened. And then just like really, yeah, like taking a step back, and understanding like, what is it actually that fuels me? It's not necessarily my career. Like, it is, there are parts of it I think that are wonderful. And I mean, I'm not teaching dance right now. I haven't taught dance since 2019. It's been a while for me. Like, and this is coming off of a 15-year teaching like
Mm-hmm.
streak. So that's a big deal for someone like me, but I just feel, I don't know. I can't sit here and say that I'm unhappy. Like I'm
Yeah.
not. Like I was just baking before this episode. I was having a blast in the kitchen. That's my new thing, is baking.
I love it.
And I bake for like other people because like I can't, like I gotta keep that under control, right? Stay healthy people. But baking is super fun for me, and it's a new hobby, and I don't know, like teaching, I do miss teaching dance. I miss that
Mhm.
feeling that you were talking about earlier. Like I know what you're talking about when especially from a musical theater perspective, just because it's different.
Mhm.
You're seeing them work at a different capacity than if it's just dance and working towards like a recital or something like that. These people in these shows have to also be characters. They have
Yep.
to act, they have to sing, and they have to do the dancing well too. So it's like you understand and see what they go through. So it's another level and
Mhm.
layer of like gratitude for what you're doing and like fulfillment, right? um I know what that meant. I don't know. I can't sit here and say that I'm not that I'm not unhappy. Like
Yeah.
I'm fine. And I never thought I'd be, because I grew up kind of similar history to you. Whereas if I felt like a failure if I was not dancing or teaching.
Yep.
And I had to grapple. I think it took me about 2 years to actually like come to terms with that. I didn't
Mhm.
come to terms with that probably until the beginning of like the pandemic. And I was
Yeah.
like, I'm not a failure. And if I wanted to teach dance tomorrow, like I could, if I want to. Like,
Mhm.
and that becomes the question, like if you want to,
Yep.
instead of I must. And I
Yeah,
think
that
ugh,
go it. No, go
I
for
was
it.
just
Finish your
gonna
thought.
say, I think that's the biggest, like for me, those are the two biggest like word changes right there.
Yep. Yeah, no, I was, because I've been teaching via Zoom. Like my dancing
Ugh.
space this entire past year is 2 feet from where I'm at right now. So we've been in our living room, and I at the beginning of the pandemic having conversations with my students of just talking, like some students still presenting work and putting it out there on social media, and some people were not, and those that were not were like, I feel like I'm failing because I'm not
Yep.
doing anything during this pandemic. I'm like, but
Uh-huh.
I was like, flip that question. What are you doing for you? Like, what, not your career, not your art, not your education. I'm like, what are you doing for you? And it's like, oh, I'm taking more time. I'm going out on walks. I'm like, you're doing something. So it's
Yeah.
like, we're all doing something to help ourselves out. But I just feel like we have that mindset that it needs to be career oriented, and it doesn't.
Ugh. I feel like we're talking like to so many people that aren't even dancers. Like this is such a
Yes.
problem for, I think, just Americans in general. Like, and I only say Americans just because like I've only grown up here. So I don't know the culture of work
Mm-hmm.
in different countries, which I know is different in different
Yep.
countries, right? They prioritize and they do things differently in different countries.
Yeah.
And there's lots of studies on that. But here in America, I feel like that is something we all struggle with. And
Mm-hmm.
and but then there's a hard line, right? Because we're not all in the position where we can just be like, I'm going to do this because I want to, like
Yeah.
we might not
Yeah.
be in a financial or socioeconomic position to kind of make those choices. So as we're sitting here having this conversation, I'm just like, well, shit, like there's still people that like, there are still people, like there are some people in our country that don't have that choice.
Mm-hmm.
And like this conversation is kind of moot, because if
Yeah.
you don't have this, it's a lot, then it goes down to the level of survival, right?
Mm-hmm.
um so I wonder about that too, which I think is another podcast.
That's yeah,
But
that we got multiple hours worth of
yeah.
topics right here. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm wondering too. I know what advice I gave you, because I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I'm gonna give you. You called me. I'm gonna give you the advice that I know, which is, after not teaching for 2 years, like I'm fine, and I think you will be too if you like don't take this job. That's
Yeah.
basically what I said. I was like, where do you want to go? If you want to go to Colorado, go to Colorado. Instead of doing
Yeah.
this other big move. And I want to say this out loud because I feel like a lot of people don't think about this too, especially in higher education, particularly dance. When you're asking someone to move across the country and do a whole new move, like the financial impact that makes on a person, is tremendous.
Yeah.
And I don't think we talk about that enough either. Like, it's an opportunity, you should do it. Yeah, but like, I know it's an opportunity, but when is the payback from me taking that opportunity going to
Mm-hmm.
like roll in and actually balance me out from everything that I'm going to put into this financially? When do I get that all back type thing? And
Yeah.
I don't think that's discussed at all.
Because not every university is able to give a moving
Right.
like stipend, like some
Yeah.
that's just not always there for universities to provide for
Yeah.
new employees. So
Especially dance departments, right? Like,
mm-hmm.
you talk about sciences and research and stuff like that. Like, they might have the funds to do that because they're getting funding from all kinds of stuff, like from the work they're doing, obviously the great work they're doing, but they have like grants and federal funding, and there's all kinds of stuff
Yeah.
where dance is a little bit more streamlined. At least right now, I think it could be
Mm-hmm.
grandiose, like that. And I'm sure it's not like that everywhere. And so definitely there are some dance programs across this country that have more resources than others. But I feel like that's a thing that nobody talks about either. Is like,
Nope.
God, that financial jump is extreme. Like, it's not even like a small one. Like, oh, I'll just, be behind for 6 months. No. Like, when you're moving from a coast to another coast, like, that is a big financial deal.
Yep.
And I'm throwing that out there. I threw it out there for you in that phone call. And then I'm throwing it out there for anyone else that like maybe contemplating that kind of thing, just because just get ready. Like, just be ready
Yep.
for it. If you really want to, like, go. Cause I mean,
Yeah.
I moved across the country because I really wanted to. And then, but if you're kind of in that boat where you were, it's like, I don't know,
Yep.
like, consider that too. That is a huge, especially as like an adult, like,
Mm-hmm.
you have a lot more things to worry about. But I'm wondering, I gave you my advice.
Mm-hmm.
We hung up, you did your thing, and you ultimately like made your decision, which we'll get to. But what I'm wondering, if you had anybody else give you different advice than me, that kind of, and how did that made you feel?
I think overall everybody was like, in the end, you have to choose where you want to go. But I did have, it kind of was a little different bags from some people. Some of them were like, go for a year. You can always move to Colorado, will be there, was the sentence that I got from a few different people. Colorado will be there. So that was one thing. You can always just move, finish. So technically, I had one more process in this situation.
Yeah.
Somebody else was like, we'll go through the whole process and then say no. So, but in the end, I think people were like, just Colorado will be there. You'll end up there sometime. And it was like, I said that when I moved, like I've been saying Colorado will be there for the 7 years I've been out here. So for me, it's like, I don't know. It's like, okay, I go for a year and now it's on my resume. It's literally a sentence on my resume, but that's a year of moving when in ultimate reality, I don't want to be there. So it's like, for me, it was like, okay, I get that from a career standpoint, but from where I am in my life right now, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And even the finish out the process, go through the whole next step, and then say no. I had a hard time with that, but I was like, okay, I'm like, the list of steps that I would need to do to prep for this is a lot. It's a lot of time that I would need to put in for me to say no. So why would I do that?
Mm-hmm.
And I had like I had a breakthrough with my therapist the other day. He was like, your
Uh-huh.
time is valued. And I have a hard time with that.
Yeah.
And so for me to understand that if I would to continue that process and went through that's my time, that's valuable. And it's like,
Yeah.
it didn't make sense for me to go through that when I know deep down it was going to be a no. And then my parents were like, I think on different, they were flipped. One was like, I get it. And the other one was like, well, just see.
Yeah. I think
but
you told me that. Yeah.
but I think, but through with everybody that I did talk to, I think they just want me to be happy. Like that was the end of the goal or the end of our conversations with everybody. But I did get kind of like, we'll just go for a year. Oh, go to the next process. Well, of course you should go. Like it's a career choice. And then I did have some people who were like, no, life, happiness, that's what you want right now. Go for that. So it was kind of a mixed bag in a sense. Nobody, I don't think anybody really truly came at me being like, yeah, you should take this. Like, what are you doing? Like nobody was like that, which is always a good thing. But
yeah, I mean, you've got your supporters, and you called the people who support you, right?
yeah,
Like you're not going to call the people that like might judge you for decisions.
yeah,
Like you
yep,
call people that care about you, and as anyone would do.
yeah.
And I think, yeah, it's just really interesting, the mixed bag. I imagine you got a mixed bag. And are those people that you asked, like obviously family, friends, and are they all in dance and not in dance? Did you have like a mix of who you asked?
Yeah, I had, yeah, I guess everybody's kind of, two of them were like my mentors.
Yeah.
Sorry, as my cat is agreeing with me and just crying. It's fine, Beans. It's fine. Two of them were my mentors and my best friend out here, family, you. So that was really kind of who I all talked to. And it's funny, I was thinking about this. I don't think I needed to call anybody. I think I knew. But part of me was like, maybe somebody will give me that one good reason why I should go. Or like, I don't know, but I think deep down I already knew, but I was like, well, let's call and see. Like, I don't, which is kind of funny in the end that I was doing that. So,
well, you're not the only one that does that, right? Like we all, I think in a lot of stuff, we're all searching for that one piece of validation. And I'm thinking a lot about episode 2 with my friend David, who refuses to do certain things for validation. He's just like, I just make content because I'm making content and I'm an artist. Like, I don't need to be a part of this, cultural festival to be validated as a Latin or like a modern Latin fusion artist. Like, I don't need it. I don't need that validation. I'm not, gonna work at anything. I'm not gonna do anything because I need validation. And it kind of reminds me of this, like when we all call people, because I do the same thing. I don't know why I can't just like trust the little voice inside my head. And like I said, I think this is a bigger thing that we're talking about. Why can't we just go off of our gut? And we always like, people always say that, right? Like, oh, listen to your gut, but we don't, though. Like, we have to call 20 people before we actually listen to our gut. Why? Like, what is wrong with us? What is wrong with us? Why? Just listen. Like it's right there. And I agree with you. I bet you didn't need to call, 20 people, but it's that, like you said, I completely empathize and understand why you did, because you're looking for that one person who might provide a different perspective from you, or to validate that in some reason. And it's just like, oh, we don't need that though.
No.
That's crazy. I love it. It's like this extends so much further than dance for me. Because I mean, ultimately, there is some good stuff about working in higher education dance. So what do you think, in your opinion, when you were going through this process, like what's attractive about working in higher education? I know you mentioned like you were looking for something full-time and this was that big full-time thing, but what else about higher education is attractive for our viewers that may not understand what it is to teach in higher education dance in particular, or have no, just don't know about it. And then what are some of the unattractive parts in your experience? Because I think everyone has a little bit of a different feel, especially you, because you do a lot of the musical theater stuff and you're doing community colleges. Like you have a little bit, your toolbox is full, ma'am. So I'm wondering, what are the attractive things for you about when you were going through this process about working in higher education? And then what are the unattractive parts?
The biggest thing for me, why I chose higher education, is because I enjoy teaching high school and above.
Mm-hmm.
So one, the age group that I am working with is a big thing. I do love working with kids in middle school and high school, but higher education will put you in the pocket of adults, young adults. Yeah. So for me, that's an aspect, but also in regards to creativity. So when you're teaching younger students, you can only do so much. There are some talented young students out there, but again, especially like in a dance studio, it's going to look very different. It's probably going to be more competition based, trick based. When you get to higher education, that's when you are working on a bigger scale of things. So especially in the musical theater, why I love working in the theater department is more so the shows, the collaboration process that comes with that is incredible. I mean, you get the same collaboration process in dance as well, but I don't know, like I am just me, but I feel like my art and everything can come to a whole nother level when I'm working with different people. So if I'm working with my director, what is their vision? That's a collaboration process. Then you have the costumer, which is like, you would think, oh, how does that work? It's like, no. It's like, if they have a vision of a certain dress, then that's going to also ultimately kind of, you have to move in what you are dancing in. So that's another aspect to think of. So, and then you have lights and design and everything. So there's a lot of moving parts, which again, you get that in a dance studio, but very, very pared down, at least from what I have witnessed or been a part of. So higher education is that. This is so silly, but again, work-life balance. You have your winter breaks. You have summer. You have time to reboot.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't say necessarily breaks. I mean, they are breaks. You should take them as breaks, but it's a time to kind of decompress, reboot, hit that reset button, and then on to the next thing.
Like not grade papers. Yeah.
Not
grade and do things. Yeah. Good.
Exactly.
Not create, like don't create during that part, or do, but like very minimal. Like all in. Yeah, no, totally. I think that's a really important part of why higher education kind of is awesome.
Yep. And that's also just any school system, but yeah, just higher education and getting those breaks. The not so fun parts, I guess, of higher education. And again, I mean, this kind of stems, I think, just in all entertainment, is you have your class period, but then if you are usually working on a show, so your whole day is booked. So it's not a 9 to 5. It's a 9 to 9, if not like a 9 to midnight. It's a much longer process. So, and weekends.
With like 4-hour chunks in between. And you're like, do I go home? Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do right now.
Right. So it's time consuming. But again, I love it and I hate it, because working on those shows is so exciting. On the opposite side, it's like, well, that's taking up time. And it also depends, I think, on what school you go to. If you go to a research school or community college, I think why community college speaks to me is, of course, any university college you go to, they want you to still be active in your community, in your art, and still going out there. But with community college, I don't think it's necessarily as required. Whereas like a research university, you need to be presenting that. So, and let me clarify a little bit more. It's like with a research university, it's like you're kind of on a time strain. You have that year to present stuff. Where it's like, I feel like at a community college, it's okay if one semester you're like, I just wasn't kind of feeling that. Next, I'm going to be inspired. Like, it's a little bit more relaxed. And I, as an educator, I think I'm, at least right now, I'm so focused on my students. So for me, that's my research in a sense, is like giving back to the students. So I don't have anything to kind of give back in regards, like I don't need to go perform. I don't need to go do that. Projects that I want to work on are within the school right now. So that's, I think, something that I need to, I don't know if I'll ever kind of flip how I feel about it, but for me, it's like, I want to focus on the students
Yeah.
and the teaching of that. And that is my research. But sometimes especially at a university, that may not be the case.
Right.
So.
Yeah. No, totally. I think there's definitely attractive things and then there's like not so attractive things. And I think it also varies from school to school. Like not every
Yep.
dance department or wherever that department falls, like it's not the same. That culture is not the same from place to place. I mean, you experienced it. Oregon is totally like the Oregon dance department at the University of Oregon is completely different than what it was at Irvine. It's completely different. So I think it kind of just depends on that stuff. So I just wanted to like give the viewers and the listeners like an opportunity to like kind of get inside your head of like, these are the things that she was also like, that you're thinking when you're trying to make this decision. You're just like, well, there's these good things over here. And then do I need to deal with it? Do I want to deal with this type thing? And like, I don't know. I think people also like play into that, especially if you know the people going into it. You're like, I know how they work. Do I want to work with that? You know? And it's just kind of something that it varies from department to department. But ultimately, you politely declined, right? You were on your way. Of course, they were going to want you. You're fabulous. Like they were going to get you there. They were going to do everything they could to get you there. You politely declined at some point in the process. So I just wanted to kind of like conclude this episode with, how are you doing now? Like, how do you feel? You've made a decision. You said you're going to Colorado. How do you feel about all that? What's going on?
I feel fantastic. So it took me a second to send the email, and it's like a 3-sentence email. But again, how my brain works, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, is this okay? Like saying no like this, because I just overanalyze and I take things a little personally, or just like not wanting to hurt people's feelings. And a lot of people were like, they get no's all the time. This isn't oh my gosh, we got a no. Like, no, they get a no. It's going to be okay. So I probably stared at the email for 20 minutes before I did say press send. Literally was just like, okay, like giving myself a pep. I was like, all right, let's go. Yeah, like it's it's fine.
Oh no.
But I did press send, and I will kid you not, the relief that happened after I sent that was kind of shocking. I was like, wow. I was like, that feels great. And I sent it maybe like a week before the next step was supposed to happen. And I like didn't even think about it. Like I wasn't, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have done that. The day happened and went that I was supposed to do it. And I was like, oh yeah, that was yesterday. Like I just kind of was like, oh, okay. So I knew that was what needed to happen. And I am now like, there's more pieces are falling in place for Colorado, and I'm over the moon with that. And I'm going back, and I have a full-time job already that has nothing to do with dance.
Right.
But it's I am grateful that I have that already set and ready to go. But it's also interesting, like thinking back to this whole process, the amount of stress that I put on myself during it.
Yeah.
And like asking why, like, why did I not just go from the first email knowing this is a no and say no? Like, why did I make myself go through, not make myself, but why did I allow that to happen? And it's like, if we just listen to our gut feelings from the get-go, it would, it's kind of funny. But
I think that I love that. And I support you, and I know everyone else does. I think, and even the strangers on the street would be like, yeah, do what you want to do, like, of course. I think the bigger question is like, why are we searching for things to validate why we want or do not want to do something? Like, yes. Why do we need validation for that? Like, why can't we just say, I don't want to do that? Or I do want to do this. I'm going to pursue this. And like, that's the end of the sentence. There's no other.
Yep.
And I wonder if that's actually the bigger question here. And I think that's something that since we talked, I've been thinking about, because I have notoriously, questioned every decision that I make. And I'm just like, I think questioning is good,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like there is a value to questioning, and there is a value to gaining advice from people that you trust. But there's also a value in, I'm going to quote David again, there's a value in your knowing.
Yep.
Like you have to have your knowing. And if you have that, you don't need anyone else's validation, and it's not even necessarily about a person. You just don't need the overall validation of what you think you need to make a decision.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if I'm going to try and move, because like this conversation, like I was like, it needs to be in a podcast, because I feel like there's so many people going through this and they don't know how, like maybe they're asking the same questions. Like, why do we do this? Like, why are we so insane that we can't just make a decision on our own, or like trust that the decision that we're making is pure, and like it's a good choice. Like, why doubt it? Like, yourself better than anybody else. So why would you doubt it in the first place? So I'm hoping we can all get to that place. I think what you've done is extraordinary, because it's really hard to make decisions like that when you've been when society has taught you, because I like I said, I can't blame any one person at this point. I think it's a societal, the United States kind of thing, where this whole idea about your career should take priority over everything. And it's just like, yeah, but at what cost?
Yeah. The fact that, and I think I even mentioned it to you, I mean, I'm not leaving California because my career isn't working. Like, I have been so fortunate that, I mean, things are going really great. And but I was like, so why? I was like, me moving for a job, because I've done that so many times in my life, that is nothing. But me moving for happiness and a life decision is the most terrifying thing I think I've ever done, which is kind of mind-boggling, that I am so terrified to move towards happiness. But it's like, but I'll go to another state not knowing anybody because of a job choice, which I think needs to happen at some point in our lives, like to just experience what that is. But at the same time, it's crazy that I'm like terrified of this move, but also so excited at the same time. So,
well, I'm proud of you, and I'm looking forward to all the really cool things that will fall into place for you in Colorado, just because of, you're choosing yourself first and foremost, and you're choosing what you want to do at your core first and foremost. You didn't call anybody asking if you should move to Colorado.
Nope.
Like that didn't happen. So that's interesting too, right? Like, you didn't do any of that for that. So I'm really proud of you. I think that what you've done is admirable, and I hope that you continue to kind of make decisions that way, and think, or at least think about it. I'm thinking about it the way that I make decisions now since we talked, and it just got my brain spiraling on like, why do we do this to ourselves? So I hope that we can all find time to be kinder to ourselves and not beat ourselves up about, turning away career opportunities in like in exchange for happiness, or for desire, or for just curiosity. I think those things, in the short time that we have on this earth, like those are really important things to like hold close, because we don't know when we're not going to have that stuff anymore. So, I'm thrilled that you're on this path, and I can't wait for you to do your thing in Colorado. And
I'm stoked.
Who knows what's going to happen. But how can our viewers follow you if they want to follow you? Do you want people to follow you?
Oh my, sure, you can.
You're gonna gain 3 followers.
I love it. I will take those 3. I have a few different handles. So you can just follow my everyday crazy life, Allison Eversoll, on Instagram, or Also with dance, I have my love of fitness and I do at-home workouts, and
Oh my
that's
God, they're
all.
so good, you guys. Like she does like booty burns and like oh my God, you're gonna be sweating in your home. It's fabulous.
It's all is one fitness. So if you just think Allison E, all is one fitness, you'll also find me. So
She's pretty cheeky too.
right. I picked this wine
Just
for
like
a
the
reason.
wine. Yeah. So just like our wine, you are very much you know, breaking tradition. You are going non-conformative. You've made a choice to not be conformative this time, and you're trying something new with a bunch of different new things and seeing what kind of like really dark, jammy, and toasty vanilla thing you can create.
I love it.
With your whatever career and happiness lies in front of you. So make sure you give Allison a follow if you'd like to. She's fantastic. She posts dance videos. She, like I said, you got to check out her stories because that's my entertainment.
They're random.
They're pretty fabulous. And, you know, you can see some of the projects that she's doing with some of her students where she's working and just side gigs and, you know, whatever. And then there's Beans, like the cat.
Yeah.
Like you just get stuff with Beans, and who doesn't
He's the
love
real
that?
MVP. He does have his own Instagram, but we don't need to put that on here. So it's fine.
Okay, I'll just follow that myself.
Okay.
Unless I get requests from viewers. So you all let me know if you want Beans' information.
This is what the pandemic has done to me, you guys.
Right? I know. It's cool. TikTok is next. So it's fine.
Yep.
Well, thank you again for being here. And I can't tell you how much I value our friendship and how much I love you and how proud I am again of you and your decision, and just to be able to step back and recognize, you know, hey, I've gone through a lot and why do I make decisions this way? Because it doesn't really make me feel good. So I think that's really admirable because that's a really hard thing to do, especially in a career like dance. So cheers to you.
Cheers to you. Thank you for having me on this, and also just having all of these conversations, not just ours, but with other people you've had on, and just bringing it to, we got to talk about these things, you know, we've kept them in for too long. So
we just got to talk about it. And I feel like I'm blessed to know so many wonderful artists who are true to themselves. And you guys are the inspire me to be the artist that I want to be. So, I can't not bring you on here. And then we just put wine with it, and you know, it's a great time. Good. So thank you to Cooper and Thief for your lovely red wine blend. It's great. I can't wait to actually try more of Cooper and Thief wine. So make sure to check them out too. I'll put all the links at the bottom. And thanks for joining Dance Uncorked. We will see you next time.